何より自分の命を賭けの代償にしてまで皆を騙そうとしたしたたかさ。こんな人物がさっさとくたばっては面白くないだろう。蘇りの妙薬、絶対に作り方を教えてもらう。
After 20 episodes of the Apothecary Diaries, Maomao has finally met her match. And no, Shuri's not just some one-and-done villain. Au contraire, she is the Moriarty to Maomao's Sherlock Holmes. A great rivalry has finally been born, and Maomao herself even admits as much. And oh boy, does she have a goal now in mind. To catch Shuri and force her to tell her all about the fantastic drugs that she used to basically fake her death. Oh, classic Maomao. Hi there everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast by novice writers for novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends, and let's dive into this fantastic episode. I was not expecting something so lighthearted and so fast-paced after what we got in the previous episode. I thought that the brakes were going to be pumped yet again, that we were going to dwell on just what happened to Jinshi, what happened to Maomao. That lasts for about 5 minutes tops, and then we are already back to shenanigans. Because, of course, Maomao isn't some superhero. She's not just simply going to get up the next day and be like, I feel better. She is bandaged up. She is limping. She is feeling the pressure and strain of a concussion, of having new stitches. And, of course, Jinshi is really disturbed by what just happened to him. And I love the tension that you get in the room where everyone wants to know, okay, how did we get to this point? And Maomao sits down and very clearly, very honestly says, here are all the different things that have been happening since back in the first core of this season, and this has all led to this moment. The mastermind, who is for right now presumably Shuri, had it all figured out, how they were going to eliminate different people within the palace in order to sow enough chaos to steal various tools and implements that would be used within the altar, making sure then that someone had to provide a replacement. Well, remember that metal worker who had created the escape room for his son so they would figure out their differences? Yeah, he unwittingly, very stupidly, this is why you shouldn't just simply throw around your blind loyalty to people, made replacement pieces for a huge, massive, very heavy structure out of metal that could melt in sunlight? Yeah, this guy should have rethought what he was doing, but, I mean, he was paid, he took the commission, it came from the Imperial Palace, so sure, I guess he was going to do it, and thereby sure he managed to get the equipment necessary, have it swapped out in order to create the perfect environment that when the heat from the candles and from the braziers and everything reached the connectors for the massive beam holding up all of the ceremonial drapings, it would melt, causing the beam to fall on Jinshi and flatten him. And what's amazing is that Maomao, despite knowing all of this, having figured all this stuff out, still cannot figure out just how important Jinshi actually is. And to just kind of jump ahead a little bit in the episode, it's incredible to see that Jinshi himself is also warring with this particular identity. Oh, man, things are getting really good as where this mystery is concerned. Well, as far as Maomao is concerned, things take a turn for the surprising when Shuri is found dead in the investigation into who could have done all of these things. And, well, she's put into a coffin, she is set to be buried, and yet Maomao's like, this girl who is so smart that she could have put together this whole plan that encompassed at least a year's worth of activity and even more in the planning, all to set up this 1-minute assassination attempt, who has had all of this patience, and she seems so calculating, she's so observant, she's so knowledgeable. I do not think that she would just simply have killed herself like all the other people have in the past, which is nice seeing a change for once in this particular regard, because it's exactly what's happened here. Maomao has Jinshi lead her on into the, not necessarily infirmary, and I wouldn't necessarily call it the morgue either, kind of the storage place for dead bodies, which I know is what people are going to say, that's the morgue, but this is definitely not the morgue. This is not your stereotypical morgue right here. And when they break open the coffin, it's not Shuri's body that is in the box. Well, because it turns out that Shuri had this all planned out. Should the assassination attempt either really succeed or fail, once the investigation would go underway, she would kill herself, thereby ending the investigation, because people would say, oh, well, obviously she's guilty and the guilty party is now dead. We don't have to worry about this anymore. But the drug instead would induce a very powerful coma that would replicate death without actually killing her, allowing her heart to beat so slowly that she would be alive, but it would seem as if she were dead. And because she had developed a good, somewhat flirtatious relationship with one of the doctors, it would ensure that that doctor would not perform a proper autopsy on her body, thereby sparing her death under the blade. And because he would care for her so much, he would make sure that her body's not just simply stashed away in some dusty corner where no one would have a chance to get to it. Instead, it would be accessible for other people as they come in bringing in the replacement body, would easily be able to swap her out, get her out. She could then dress up as a man and then escape with everyone else in disguise. Truly, this is an incredible Moriarty move, and now Maomao has a rival, an enemy that is out there, whom she wishes to capture and ply for all the details, all the information. And what is great right here, I love in this little moment how we get this comparison between Maomao and Shuri, where we realize a sense of morality. Maomao has already proven herself to be almost too good for her own good, where she would sprint across the palace, risk life and limb to try to rescue someone who she didn't even know, who just happened to turn out to be Jinshi in the previous assassination plot. This shows that Maomao truly is a good person deep down, despite her other tendencies. But if she didn't have that guiding compass, Maomao could totally be another Shuri. Now, at this point in the episode, I looked at it and was like, wow, there's a lot of episode left. It's time to kind of slow things down. Nope! Switching gears, and Maomao is being transferred back to the rear palace to again serve there in order to keep an eye on potentially the Emperor's next child, possibly his heir. What's more is it looks like the politics of the rear palace are about to flare once again, and Jinshi is going to be thrown into the mix. And we learn quite a few interesting things here about Jinshi, and also about Gaoshin, which was a bit of a surprise. We find out that they've been using certain teas and chemicals to suppress their manhood a bit, and I love the conversation between Jinshi and Gaoshin, where Gaoshin's like, sir, you don't actually need to drink this tea. Everyone already thinks you're a eunuch, and so they're not really going to try anything with you. Plus, if you keep on drinking this, it's actually going to make you impotent for real. And I love how the conversation ends with Jinshi being like, you want me to get married? Fine, I will look for someone. I know this will help me to get upgraded, yada, yada, yada. Good old courtly politics. But one important thing that we need to point out right here is how Jinshi himself is asking all kinds of important questions about his own identity. And remember, there was a strong connection between him and Aodo. There's still that lingering question. Could he be Aodo's son, swapped on out, which would then potentially make him the heir to the empire? That is a lot of weight on Jinshi's shoulders, but we also see that there's plenty of other schemes and machinations at play. He is after his own goals, and we don't fully understand just yet what Jinshi is truly after, especially when we see to what lengths he goes through to pretend that he is a eunuch, when he obviously isn't, as well as plenty other things that seem to be crowding in around this young man. There are definitely some large expectations on his shoulders, and we're not yet sure how he's really going to bear with them, or what he ultimately intends to do in his particular station. On top of that, one of the things I really liked that we learned about Gaoshin is that he is far older or far more experienced than we may have expected, and he too is merely playing the part of a eunuch, because he has a wife and kids. In fact, his youngest son has been the guy who has been escorting Maomao around the palace. That's really keeping in the family right there, Gaoshin. And this now explains why Maomao's like, you know what, there's a lot of similarities between these two. I can't quite figure it out. Oh, Maomao, you fantastic girl, you Sherlock Holmes, you were able to get everything right except for one crucial element. If Maomao can untangle the great plot and weave that Shuri has created, how can she not figure out these couple of guys? But as we now return to the rear palace, it seems as though we are going to once again get embroiled, get engaged in the courtly politics of concubines, with Lady Lulan now taking center stage. She poses an interesting mystery, especially to the Emperor. The Emperor's doing his duties, he's going in, he's supposed to get jiggy with it with her, but yet everything about her just kind of turns him off, and he's not sure what to do with this lady. But he has to complete his courtly duties. She's supposed to become pregnant. She is of that proper age. She's supposed to start producing children. It is expected because one of the greatest opponents / allies within the court ensured that the emperor married his daughter. This is indeed a very political motivated in arranged marriage, and there are expectations to that. And should the emperor prove impotent in a certain way, it could lead to all kinds of whisperings and other machinations behind the emperor's back, or even to his own face, from very powerful factions within the court that could lead to all kinds of problems, especially because he does not have an apparent male heir to pass the throne along to. In order then for the dynasty to be secured, others would then step in and ensure a proper transition of power, which may or may not need the current emperor. And so the board is set for the next mystery, for the next sequence of amazing events here within the Apothecary Diaries, and a large mystery is still left unsolved. And why did she target Jinshi? What is really going on within the Imperial Palace? Now, as far as Maomao is concerned, she is returning back to a place where she feels very comfortable, amongst women that she feels very comfortable with, and she's able to escape Lacan for the time being, because Lacan cannot make it into the rear palace. So as far as Maomao, this is a win-win-win-win-win. But being thrown back into the rear palace after so much time has passed with a new concubine who seems to be shaking things up, and especially now that it's very clear that Maomao is Jinshi's girl, this is going to create all new kinds of tension and problems, and she's going to have to learn on the fly how dynamics have changed. This is going to be really interesting to see where we go from here. Now, as far as what writing advice we can get out of this episode, there's a couple of things I will point out. One is this: if you are creating this grand conspiracy or mystery as an author, you should not just have one simple reveal where you explain it all and then move on and think that everyone has gotten it. It is good to have reviews. It is good to have characters take stock of everything that they know at various different times, allowing the audience, allowing your readers to also review this information, because many of them will have forgotten certain crucial details along the way. That just happens to all of us. So this is really good for keeping everyone at the same level of understanding, so that way no one's lost along the way. The next thing is this, is if you have a really great villain like Shuri, don't do like what the MCU does and simply kill off that villain. Make sure that you use them to the utmost if there are other opportunities to use them. If you don't have plans to introduce some new big bad villain and you're afraid of crowding out your story with all these extra characters, and so you don't have to kill the current villain that you're working with, there really is no rush to dispose of them. But my third writing lesson would be this, and this comes down to a matter of pacing. While I did enjoy the quick shift from one mystery to the other, from one setting to the next here in this episode, I did feel like it was a little bit rushed. And the reason why I say that is because we were building up for so long to the assassination attempt on Jinshi's life, to the reveal of Shuri's plans and all these other things. This felt like something that we would really want to have stewed over just a little bit more to fully come to terms with all of this and maybe create a little bit more fan speculation, a little bit more character speculation, allow us to come down just a little bit, and then set up for Maomao's return to the Rear Palace. With everything going the speed that it did, I mean, I still enjoyed it, but I feel like there was something missing right here, especially with the normally slow pace that the Apothecary Diaries takes. This seemed a little too fast. Again, pacing is a very difficult thing, but for you as a writer, as you're transitioning from one major plot point to the next, or from one major arc to the next, you want to make sure that you take proper time to resolve that current arc before moving on to the next. If you just simply jump without needing to jump, it causes a little bit of confusion, a little bit of discombobulation. Not everyone is as forgiving as me or as understanding as I am, and there might be some people who are like, wait. It seems like this episode was trying to do a little too much, and you want to avoid that in your own work. There are times where it's okay to do that, where you kind of want to overwhelm the main characters with, here's all these things happening at once, but usually during the resolution of one arc, that's not the proper time to do something like that. So there you have it. There's my breakdown of the episode. Those are the writing lessons that I took away from this fantastic episode, and I cannot wait for the rematch between Maomao and Shuri. It is bound to be excellent. But with all that being said, while we wait for the next episode of the Apothecary Diaries, if you wish to support the work that we do here, then please check out our other videos. Please like, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already done so, but if you really want to support what we do, please check out the books that we ourselves have published. Links for them are in the description below. And until the next video, y'all, watch out for assassination attempts on your life with strange, weird metals that melt in the sunlight, and beware of beautiful women planting marigolds on strange hills. Tschüss.